Hello and very warm welcome everyone. It's Marta. Welcome back on my channel or welcome if you're new. This is the second part of the video which I've promised I'm gonna be making. This was a very easy simple card which was basically done without any dies or any specialty tools, and this time I'm gonna be doing upgraded version of it, so I can show you how you can go from simple design to something more elegant, more fancier. Now, my first and most important step in order to achieve a beautiful look is having a proper preparation. I like to cut a bunch of elements, bunch of the leaves and flowers using different papers, different, things, and all of that. This is something which I always try to do before I'm gonna start creating the card, because if you have a proper amount of leaves and flowers on hand, it's always easier to build up the full nice composition. And if you have any leftovers, you can then simply create another quick card. Now, to make my card look fancier, I'm gonna be upgrading in a size. So instead of having DL size card, I will enlarge it to 8 by 8. So this is one of my go-to tip whenever you'd like to create something more specialty like this one of a kind wowzer card. The bigger size is the answer. Sometimes, obviously, some cards you have to post or something, so you are limited. But if you're creating this one of a kind element for someone in your family or for very, very special occasion of your friends, like a wedding or christening or something like that, you can then enlarge the size because you will be given this card in person. Another thing I really like to do if I'm creating those fancy cards is to give them a proper, I would say, presentation. And for me, it's always look nicer if you create some specialty fold or like an easel card. And this is what I'm gonna be doing today. Instead of creating just a regular card, I will create an easel card which will have this nice stand, so that will be beautifully display, because I presume, like most of the times whenever I'm giving a special card to someone in my family or friends, they kind of like to have it on display, whether it's like a mantle or on a shelf. So having this extra option for the card to stand on its own, like in this case easel card, it's always a great choice. Now, to create my easel card, you can either start from ready-made card base. I didn't have any because that's larger size, 8 by 8 inches, so I create mine. What you really need is just a piece of the card which is 8 by 8 size, and then another card you score like 4 inches, 8 inches, and the remain bit which is shorter than 4 inch, the one side, it will become a flap. And you can see here I added some double-sided tape to both ends, and I am just adhering it, and it's super simple, super easy, and give you that option that the card will nicely stand. And especially if you're gonna be creating that fancy card with the bulky, lots of flowers, large composition, it's better to create it as an easel card, because if you have it as a regular card, the weight of the composition, if you're gonna be adhering some chipboards, flowers, lots of different elements, the weight of the composition could make your card collapsing like to one side to the front. But if you have it stand as an easel, the card will have a support and it will be beautifully displayed. So here you can see I am adding the glue, and now I am creating this front panel. This is additional 8 by 8 panel which I am adding to this small flap. It's fairly easy. Easel card is something that's been done for years and years, so I think it's just quite clear. And as I've mentioned, you can either build your own card or work on a ready-made card base. That will be good to go. Now, my friends, I'm using the very same paper. However, I went one step forward and I actually create this like a insert version of the paper. The design itself, it's quite dark, it's nicely saturated with colors, but I thought it would be nice to have some differentiation. So I went to my computer. This is my own design, by the way. That's the design I was sharing with you when I had this celebration of 5,000 subscription. So these are on my Buy Me a Coffee, the darker version, and then I've used the lighter one. I've created the insert version so I could have something to enhance my pattern. And this is also a great way, if you're working on digital papers, you can also print them more saturated version and then less saturation by adding a proper option to your printer. And now I've marked myself the dots where to cut so I could have this mat and layer on my front panel. And for me, this is always making the card look more elegant if I'm adding a little bit shine to it. And my best friend in that case is mirror cardstock. I just absolutely love it, and I'm just I'm just sticking it everywhere. Now, I didn't do that here because this is what I'm normally doing. I usually cut the square. On the large square, I am chopping off this bit inside. This is something I can then later on use for cutting additional leaves or sentiment or something, just use that space. Make sure you actually utilize the space. However, when I was recording the video, I was making it kind of a live session, but then it was far too long. So I thought, let me just edit that, because I don't think you would watch me, crafting for hour and a half as a video. Maybe as a live classes, then yes, but I've decided to make it easier for everyone, make it more digestible. I'm just kind of, going over second time, like editing and having this voiceover. Now I have this beautiful border dies, and this is something which I like to do. I like to reach for the fancy, elegant dies just to create the nice specialty look. And many occasions, once I am cutting those dies, those little like a border frames, all doilies around, I like to create the shadow effect. I know it's a lot of work. It's extra job because you have to cut a gold backing piece for each single one of them. But believe me, my friends, this is worth an effort. This is something we create, this one of a kind work of love, I would say. So I always like to go extra mile and make sure that all the layers, they have this little shiny shadow behind them. Is just something which create and add more to an elegance. And here I am chopping the strip to go in the front, because I am not changing the design. This is the same design as I used on the previous card, but I am trying to recreate it as this luxurious special card. And I'm not sure if I already mentioned that, but this is absolutely great exercise. If you ever thought about like, oh, I would like to upgrade my card, elevate them, create them a little bit more fancier, better looking, work on what you already previously made. If there is a card you made in the past and you really like it, just start from there. Use the same idea, work around it, and see what else you can have. Take on your desk like all the border dies or all fancy frames, different shapes, and do something which I kind of like to do myself quite often. I take those dice and I place them like one on top of another. I'm trying different configuration. See, will this one work with that? Is this frame from one set will work with something else with another set? And this is also the great way for stretching up your supplies, because sometimes we buy a fancy set from one company and it has this set of oval frames or something, and then we have something different like square set or different other frame or something with another company. Try to set them one on top of another. You not always have to use the same dice from one set to create the layers. Try to play, try to kind of see what looks you can achieve, and then you'll be able, once you start playing with the dice, you can then just create an absolutely like infinite amount of the different combination. If you've got like 4 or 5 die set with different borders or frames, try to reconfigure them, and I'm guaranteed to you that you will have this endless inspiration, because you will put one on top of another and you'll see like, oh, I like to use this one, oh, but I also like that one, and then you have 2 ideas for a card. Then you add another metal die or something else, then, oh, this is nice, let me try this on that embossing folder, let me try the same die on different background using different embossing folder or something. This is how you can create lots of different looks. And thanks to this exercise, you will also become way more creative, because you will come up with more and more ideas to use for your own cards. Now, my friends, I'm gonna share with you my secret sauce, something I like to do with some embellishments, like with my leaves and floral elements, something which helps them to look even more. This is gonna be a recipe, and I'm sharing it with my subscribers. So if you have not subscribed, then please do. But of course, this is a joke, but it will be nice if you would subscribe if you have not done so. Now, I love when my flowers and leaves elements, they have some extra texture, they have some special look. For that, I try to quite often, I'm cutting them from the design paper, because they have this background already like interesting look for the leaves. They kind of is splotchy, there's something going on. But another thing which I really, really like to do is to take some sparkly, shiny, either glue, like a cosmic shimmer or this glitz, or maybe like a acrylic paint. There is lots of the very cheap pearl acrylic paints, and they will be looking great as well. I am adding a little bit on the sponge, and look on that, this is beautiful splotchy look, so pretty. It's just absolutely, it's adding the shine to all the elements, and this is something which also add this very interesting texture. Now, what I like to do, I like to add the paint first or glue, and sometimes I like to add either embossing powder on top of that, create some splatters, or use this spellbinder. This is a shimmery spray. It's like a liquid ink. Oh, it's like a liquid shimmer spray ink, and this is the product which I really, really like. I have it for such a long time, and here is the stamp I'm showing you. You can stamp this splotchy or text image something and then emboss it, but wait for the glue to dry with this liquid ink. And I did a video ages ago on that one. I probably link it at the end of the video, maybe someone would like to see this product. Oh, and I made a mess, my friends. I opened up this slightly, and then I wanted to shake it and I forgot it was open, so here's all the mess. But doesn't matter, this product is such a great for adding like lots of shine. You can paint with it, you can stamp with it, you can color the whole pages. What I like to do, I like to splatter my leaves with this, or with the embossing ink using this splotchy stamp, and this is such a amazing result. This is adding the whole new level to your leaf. Try that one and you won't regret it. Now, I've placed a piece of the background paper, and this is something I did myself for a smooshing, like I use ink smooshing technique. And I thought, since I am splattering my leaves, I'll put this piece underneath, that way I will have it splattered as well, and later on I can use it to cut more leaves if I'll need to. And of course my hands are so dirty with the ink, but I went to a bathroom, I just wash it and it's okay. But just remember, it's just something you have to be careful. If you open up the product, don't try to shake it at all. I'm just I'm always trying to shake those very well, because they have those little shiny particles, like a perfect pearls powder or something in it. So the more you shake it, the more shiny they will become. And this is like something I love to do. I love to add it to my leaves, so whenever I'm creating those fancy cards, not only I'm using like specialty papers, something nice, I have lots of different dyes like lace layers, things like that. I'm also making sure that all my elements and that include flowers, that include leaves. They are kind of a more specialty made rather than just cut from the plain green color cardstock, like for a leaf in example. And now I am adding the liquid glue and I'm adhering this lacy first lacy border to the back. And here I made a little mistake because I didn't check the width of my card, and I could actually cut a full of those 6 layers, but because I central the piece on the paper, I just had to, you know, cut it on the both ends. If I would check it firstly, I would not have to be try to, you know, work in between, like moving around and trying to center it. I could then use four full of those like a lacy scallops. So this is just something to keep in mind. You can see here as I am adding it to the card, I could actually use the full pattern, but because I put my paper like kind of in a center, like I put the die on the center, I didn't had enough on both ends. So I just had to trim both sides. And here I am just adding it to my guillotine, and this is what I like to do whenever I have those hanging pieces and I need to cut them. I'm always reaching for a guillotine. It's so easy to, you know, kind of you ruin the project if you put your scissors under the wrong angle and then you adhere one layer on top of another, and then you have this like a angle cut. It doesn't look really neat. So this is all those little details, they coming up together, and this is what it's creating this fabulous specialty project. And I've heard it many times, like lots of friends saying like, oh Marta, I wish I could do such a beautiful cards, I wish I could do the same. You can, my friend. I am absolutely 100% sure that any one of us can create something super fabulous, elegant, like next level. If your card doesn't look like that, it's only because you have not done it yet, in the meaning that you could add probably one more layer, maybe like 2 3 different kind of the greenery. If you have the flower composition, try to experiment, try to add additional, like, you know, different type of the leaves rather than adding one type. Just make your composition, like enrich it with different elements, and you will see. Maybe add some pearls, maybe add a little bit of the string or some bling or something. You will be surprised that little things, little extra details, like having the second border from underneath. This is something which really adding up to the project. It's adding to its richness. You kind of, you look on a card and instantly you think, oh wow, this is like something, you know, super special. It's super fancy, and you know, it has this look which is kind of a, you know, I would say more expensive look, and that's what it's making this card looking you know, more fabulous. And to actually add some dimension in between the layers to help them stand out, I put a piece of the bear mat, or you could use a cardboard or double-sided foam tape, just something to help rise this front border on from the one which is in behind. That way they kind of stand out a little bit better. And again, I am placing my piece on the chopping board, and this is what I like to do. I press with both fingers, trying to see if I have it equally, because some of the elements, when you have the fancy border on top, you cannot really place your paper up to the top. So try to see with your fingers if you have it like positioned right way. So that will save you a lot of the trouble. Now I am adding this layer to my gold mat, and as I've mentioned, because I was kind of in a rush, this card was taking a long time, I didn't cut this little golden piece from behind, but I do recommend you to cut a little square or even like a rough shape with your scissors. That's a lot of the gold paper. So I know I'm not doing what I've preached at the minute, like I should probably do so, but as I mentioned, I honestly forgot. And then when I was recording the video, like when I was re-editing the video, I was like, oh, I should really mention and I should really do that, because it's saving a lot of the paper and you can use that paper for later. Now I am cutting 2 little strips which will be used for my card, and here you can see the example. At the beginning of my card, I couldn't like kind of put the right measurement for my mat and layer, because I thought I've cut my design paper wrong way, but it was actually this golden paper which was pre-cut manufacturally. It has this little difference in between the length, so only when I place it on my guillotine I've seen that there was a difference a little bit, so it was wrongly cut. So sometimes when your layers don't match, like you think you've cut something straight and you put your mat and layer together and your frame is not equal all around, make sure that this is actually not the fault of the manufacturer. And for the small pieces like that, I can use my scissors and trim it, but anything larger, I would suggest you to reach for a guillotine, because there's nothing worse when you spend a lot of time cutting all those layers, all those fancy trims and borders, and then you snip them with the scissors unevenly, and once you place your card on top of the layer, you kind of see that this is like uneven. This is like annoying, and for such a luxurious look, you'd rather want to, at least in my example, I rather want everything to look nice and very, very neat. Now I am placing this piece on top of this card, and that will be my front panel being ready to be dressed up. And I really like how it looks, like this double border. It's actually looking really, really fancy here. So I'm super excited that I actually didn't go on a shortcut and create two borders rather than the single one. And of course, each one of them is backed with the golden paper, so that was additional extra work, and it took me like hour and a half to actually create the card. And also not only hour and a half, I've spent some time to create the flowers, something you could see on my last video. On one of my previous video, I was creating those paper flowers, and then right before I start recording the card, I also spent half an hour to cut all those extra leaves and elements to dress up my card. So this is also something you have to take under consideration whenever you're creating your card, especially for selling them. If you're thinking like, oh, I'm gonna sell this card, make sure you actually price it correctly. So what do I mean by that? Not only you add yourself a price for all the paper and embellishments, everything you use, you also include the time which you made to create the card, but also the time for all the preparation. If you have to specifically, sit down for half an hour, cut leaves, flowers, everything, and then you make a card for 1.5 hours, you actually use up 2 hours of your time. So have it in mind, my friend, if you're gonna be pricing your card, to give yourself an honest price, which you deserve to actually, be paid for the card. Now I'm using the frames, and this is a very, very old frame of the Sizzix. You probably seen it. If you watch my channel, you probably seen it multiple times. But if I like something, I'm gonna be using it over and over again, even though it's the same die. But every time I'm using different kind of a combination, different set of the papers, embellishments, so each of the card looks unique, and everything is done with the same set of dies. So as you can see, you don't really need a lot. Like if you buy product, good quality product, and something which kind of is spark joy in your heart, like sometimes you can see the cutting die set and like, oh, this is it, I love it, I love it, and this is something you're gonna be using over and over again. This is worth investing. If you see die set or stamp set and you have no idea, like you see it with someone else playing with it and you've got the idea they show you, but you cannot instantly come up with 3 or 4 other uses for the product, I would then just leave it on a waiting list, like rather than buy it straight away, because I know for myself, if I see the good design which is kind of a working with my style, I can instantly come up with 10 different ideas for the same set. But sometimes if I am inspired by someone else and this is nice, I like it, I love it, I really want to do it, but then I cannot come up with idea like what else I can use it for. I most of the time when I buy something like that, then I'm just like stuck with the loop with what I've been shown, and I cannot come up with my own ideas. So this is just something to bear in mind, especially if looking to buy more products. Just choose the one which you really really like, and you're gonna be using them over and over again. Here is this gold wedding couple from Creative Expression, and I have a sentiment. This is a personal like wedding sentiment. It's actually names and best wishes on your wedding day, but I've styled it the exactly the same way as the previous cards, so they're kind of in the same style. So I want to card to be like kind of the upgraded version, so that's why I've used the same type of the sentiment. But I thought that such an elegant card could be a great use for a wedding, so I added some names and created more personalized. And again, this is another way of creating the fancy special project. There is nothing more fancier than adding this personalized touch to write down the name, to write the specific date, not only like on your wedding day, no, but just write down like, I don't know, someone's name, someone's important meaning. You can add a special quote or poem or something like the favorite verse from the favorite song, anything more personal. This is what makes the product appear way more luxurious than anything else. Here I am creating a little arch for my sentiment, and here you can see those flowers which we were making in my last video. And I'm adding 2 pieces of the cardboard, or that could be a foam. Anything really works. I just had this piece of the cardboard right next to me, so this is just something which prevent the sentiment from collapsing, so it will be standing nicely, and that way it's way more elegant. If you're gonna leave it empty, you will have this little dent in the center, which will not look really nice later on. And now I am gonna be creating the composition. I have a bunch of the leaves. As you can see here, they are drying, and they were drying on the piece of the scrap paper. And when I'm creating the composition for my like a foliage for my flower composition, I like to kind of inspire myself with the color of the design paper. Here I had a lot of the blue color tone, so half of my leaves is cutted with the blue color paper, and that was cut from the scrap piece of the blue color design paper. And then I've created those green one, and also a lot of different like a small foliage cut in gold. Again, we are creating a very luxuriously looking composition here, so I'm making sure I have lots of different elements. Like if you buy a fancy bouquet like from the florist shop, they always have all those extra foliage added. It's not only just one of the kind, but they will put lots of different elements to help the composition to stand out. So here's what I'm doing as well. And I have these little berries which I've cut, and then I use a Nuvo drops to even accent all those little berries. And again, this is something which add this additional color, additional texture, and a little bit of the shine as well. Plus I have 2 beautiful full flowers. I will add more of the little ones in a minute, but I'm starting from the two big flowers, so they are my main focal point for this arrangement. And now I am just stacking different bits here and there. I'm purposely leaving it a little bit longer just so you can see how many things I am putting here. So I'm just adding and adding until I'm actually satisfied, like, oh wow, this is looking really full, this is looking really special, and there's lots of things going on. I am having this little wedding couple in the center, like in this frame, so I'm trying to avoid, composition going too much over them, so they're nicely, shown up on this space, on this white piece of a card. And then I am working around. And something I really like to do, I like to stretch my composition like diagonally through the card. So for that I am adding additional flower at the end of my sentiment on the right side. So this way I'm kind of stretching my composition towards the whole card, so it's looking nicely. And if you create that flow, always kind of you try to be like not too many places. If you add your composition in all four corners, that will be looking odd. But if you kind of create the flow line, like from the from one side to another, and that will be this like a gentle flow, that will be looking great. And again, I am adding more, and I'm adding those little gold layers in between, so until I'm feeling that this is it, like I have plenty and there's nothing else I could fit there. And you will see that in a close-up look in a minute how all this card is looking like. And one last thing I wanted to add as well is adding some pearls. You can either add them around the circular frame or add them in those joining points here on my on the border. So something like that, it's also enhancing the pattern. It's also giving that extra special touch, and your card, once whoever will receive the card and they will be looking at it, they will see that instantly, that oh wow, this is a true piece of art. This is something which another person had to spend a long time, long hours to create that, and that will instantly upscale the card to the next level. And of course I need to add my string. So this is just, I think it's like my signature. Over this time it definitely become one of the things, like, you know, which I can like recognize my card by. It's just they have this stringy piece here. And even one point on one video I forgot, and then friends were asking like, Marta, where's the string? So that's quite fun that you have noticed that one as well. I am finishing off with this little kind of like a skinny berry branches. They're very delicate, but they have this very nice interesting look. And basically my card is almost ready. I will be putting a little piece of the design paper on the inside as well, and create maybe a little you know, a little point for the card to stand out. I'm not gonna be dressing the inside too much because I want to have this lovely design show up and be on a nice display. Now let me know, my friends, if you would like to see the next part with the packaging, because I can show you how we can create the packaging for such a fancy card. Here you can see, this is what I'm saying. I'm just gonna be adding a little, maybe like a gold button or something, just to hold the easel card, and that will be it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope even though it was longer, you watched from the beginning till end, and hopefully that was inspiring. If you did, please don't forget to give a like, to say hi, and in a comment, and of course to share. I'm sending you hugs, and I wish you all a fabulous day. Bye bye.